This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Friday, January 26, 2007, and this is episode number 210 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from mgmstudios.org. On the show today is Len Testa, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. How are you, Len?
It's a bittersweet day today, Matt.
Bittersweet, how so?
Well, on the one hand, it's a fabulous day because, as all of our listeners know, I've wanted a Van Halen reunion for these many 22 years. And it looks like they're going to announce tomorrow that David Lee Roth is back in the band. On the other hand, I'm a little bit sad that we're barely 7 years into the 21st century, and apparently it's somehow peaked. Because everything else for the next 92 and a half years is really downhill after this. I mean, America could... I'm sure at some point in the near future our kids are going to discover, the key to the hydrogen economy, and we'll be free of our dependence on fuel. Eventually we're going to figure out how to clone Gisele Bundchen, and we'll have one of them in our closet, each of us. It's really not going to get any better than this, though. I'm really going to say that.
Note to self, don't ask Glenn any more questions today.
And that about does it for us today.
Good night, everybody.
So anyway, Dave back joining Van Halen. All is right with the world. Tour starts in May in North Carolina.
Great.
MTV News Break brought to you by...
Also on the show today is Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Welcome, Mike.
Matt, it's a bittersweet day.
I don't care. And also on the show...
Yeah, thanks very much.
We've also got Mike Scopa, who's the... What are you, Mike? Oh, yeah, you write for Mouse Planet.
Yeah, and I'm still bitter over the Patriots losing to the Colts. But anyways,
I don't know where that quote comes from.
That was sweet.
Yeah. Beyond that, I have one thing to say, and that is that more than 80,000 photovoltaic cells have been installed on the roof.
Energy. Ellen's Energy Adventure, of course.
Well, you're close, Frank. It's actually the original script from the original Universe of Energy.
You got the building right.
So close.
We'll give you credit.
And our special guest panelist today is Frank Cohen, who's a writer for the Bay Area Parenting Magazine, and our Dive Quest expert. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you very much, and I guess today's a great day for spandex.
That's upon who's wearing it.
It's a great day for chaps without... Anyway.
On today's show, we're talking about Dive Quest at Epcot, and I think what makes Disney World such a unique vacation spot is the wide array of things you can do besides, just riding roller coasters and dark rides. And Dive Quest really is quite an interesting excursion. Frank, why don't you tell our listeners, first of all, what Dive Quest is exactly, because I'm not sure everybody knows what we're talking about.
Dive Quest is a program that is hosted at the Seas Pavilion at Epcot, and it got started about 3 years ago. I'm not sure what the impetus was for starting it, but it's a tremendous opportunity for pretty much any certified diver to go into the tank, and basically it's the world's easiest dive, and it's really exciting to do.
Interesting. What do you have to do to be able to dive in Dive Quest?
Pretty much you need to either be 15 years or older and have a scuba certification card with one of the prominent certification organizations like PADI or SSI or CMAS.
How long does it take to get that certification? So if a family's listening to the show now, is this something you can do in an hour, or does it take a month, or...?
The certification, if you're going to go for a full certificate, probably takes you about 3 or 4 weeks. But they also offer the ability for people with junior certifications, like I have a 15-year-old son who very much wants to go, and he can learn and get a junior certification just in a couple of weeks.
And
do you call him
junior?
Yeah, junior. Do you call him shark bait when you go in there?
Yeah, well, that's what we call him.
I believe the word is
table,
chum.
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 He's not a great swimmer.
Chum.
Chum.
Now, how much does it cost, Frank, to do Dive Quest?
So the Dive Quest program costs $140 per person, and it's something that you can book through Walt Disney World tours. But there are a whole bunch of different discounts available. So, like if you show your AAA card, for example, you can get the price down to about $120.
Nice.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, is that the same for Chum also?
Chum or not. I mean, actually, you might have seen that there are like 6 6-foot-long sharks in that tank, and so they give you special instruction on what to do and not to do around the sharks.
Yeah, like don't
Bleed
near
is
them.
one of them, I'm sure, right?
Yeah,
I don't even like
Well,
going in the tank at what is it, Typhoon Lagoon, and those are the sharks that
You
allegedly.
fell in the tank at Typhoon Lagoon?
No, I said I don't like going in the tank at Typhoon Lagoon.
Oh.
There's no way I would get in this tank, whether or not with Frank and Chum or not.
You're talking about Shark Reef, Matt?
Yeah,
See,
at
I would
Typhoon Lagoon.
I would actually look for for my group to be the children, because I would assume that those would be the weaker swimmers, and that the sharks would know to go after the young and the elderly. I would feel much safer actually with the kids around there.
Now tell me the truth, Frank. How many Jaws jokes do you make
I know.
before going in the
Do you
tank?
jump in and go dun 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 dun?
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
I've gone on 50+ dives in my lifetime, so this was just yet another dive, and I've dove around sharks. But it's kind of fun because they do an introduction meeting where you're with the other, like say 10 people who are going to do the dive at the time, and those other people have like a really varied level of experience of diving. Some of them have, like, it sounds like, never been in the water before, and for those guys, they'll be asking, well, should I be on the left side of the shark? Should I be on the right side of the shark? And for them, it's kind of funny to hear them talking before they actually dive in.
Did they get like online certification for their
Yeah.
How did they?
Well, the certification cards themselves are supposed to say that you've done enough qualification to dive into the water, but the ratio of divers to Disney cast members who are actually in the water is pretty high. I mean, normally you'll have maybe one cast member for every 3 divers, so they're there to like keep you out of trouble.
Now, what's the best part of Dive Quest, Frank, other than avoiding the man-eating sharks?
First of all, when you're diving out in the ocean, you're not normally in front of a couple hundred people, so you can kind of feel pretty naked there, and it can be pretty weird, especially if you're the slightest bit self-conscious.
There's no promise for Len there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course, there's no Dole Whip at the bottom of the tank.
Well, then that leaves me out.
Yeah.
No. So did they tell you that it's rude to go around and point at the fish and go, them's good eating? Or
Or I saw you on the menu last night.
exactly. Were you trying to catch them and put them in a bag for later so that you could go to Coral Reef and say, yeah, I'll take this right here in the bag?
I remember one of the dives. One of the fish was like particularly aggressive and nipped me on my shoulder. So of course I had a fish dinner that night.
Did you really? Yes, come a little bit closer. Yes.
Yeah. The dive itself, aside from the fish, everything else is Disney magic. The coral itself might look real, but the cast members are very specific about saying this is a no-touch trip. They're also protecting the coral from wearing out.
So you can't touch the fish, you can't pet the fish, and did you get close to like the dolphins or anything to where you could?
The way that the building is set up, the pavilion actually looks like a giant circle, in that the tank actually is a giant circle, and 1/4 of that tank is separated both for the dolphins and the manatees that they have housed there. They used to have a dive-in program to have like an experience with the dolphins, and they might still, but I haven't seen it offered in a little while. So consequently, you're in the 3/4 of the tank that don't have the dolphins in it.
Oh, really? Oh, but did you have manatees in it too, or the dolphins and the manatees were just enough that 1/4?
They're off in that 1/4. So what you have is 3/4 of the tank, which is still 27 feet deep and 200 feet across.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, that makes real sense. Let's put the man-eating sharks with the humans and take the docile mammals and put them far away from the humans.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And the slow-moving manatees, right? The vegetarians, yeah. Herbivores, yeah.
We'll put them as far away from the people as possible. Sharks are really what
Sharks,
the hell.
yeah.
Yeah. One cast member told me that they feed their sharks every night after the pavilion closes. So
With
they
the
turn off the
stragglers?
lights and yeah, really.
Hey,
They turn
you
off the
over there,
lights
the
and the-
guy that doesn't look like that you can swim very well. How'd you like to do Dive Quest for $20? In fact, you know what? You just go. Hold on. Wait, we need to rub you down with some lotion. Wait, this smells like A1. I mean, that's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. And they of course make sure that they're not season pass holders.
Yeah, not annual pass holders. We don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
We don't want anyone who could possibly give us money in the long run.
So this is your last day in the park? Is that what you're saying? And you're staying off-site. You don't say.
Offsite.
You're here by yourself. Have you tried a new... Congratulations, you're one of our Year of a Million Dreams winners. Here's what you get. That's what if Newell and I were walking the park together, that's what we would get. We wouldn't get the fast passes or anything. We'd be like, hey, you guys don't look like you're very strong swimmers. You're staying off site? Really? And no one knows you're here. You're here all by yourselves. Congratulations, sir. That's what it would be.
Len could easily be the Quint equivalent to Dive Quest. If they got some guy over there, some seasoned...
Again with the season, when we're talking about food. It's hysterical.
Yeah, no, just trying to work the Jaws references into this. Now, Frank, what's the weirdest part of being in the water?
Well, I mean, aside from being in front of a couple of hundred people, that you're also a cast member for those 40 minutes of the trip, and so you have to think, well, would Mickey do this? Would Mickey do that? And it is strange.
Do you? I'm sure anyone who grew up watching Full House remembers that scene where the divers in Dive Quest had held up a sign to propose. Do you ever have to do anything like hold up signs or things like that?
No, but in the dive that I did around Christmas time just a few weeks ago, when we were finished with the dive, they do this kind of post-mortem on the dive, and it was revealed to us that two of the divers got engaged underwater. The Disney Dive Quest cast members helped them out by showing them like how to construct a sign that the groom could like unveil underwater, and of course the two of them with regulators in their mouths try to kiss, and that was kind of fun to watch.
And man, you thought you were so clever.
Oh, thanks, Noel. Yeah.
So Frank, is there any truth to the rumor that they're going to combine the Dive Quest with the Segway tour?
That's it. It's like the last little bit where you go off course.
Yeah, that
Now,
last step is a killer.
Yeah.
It's a doozy. You can avoid the warranty on the Segway. When you're doing the dive, did you have like the Jacques Cousteau accent in the back of your head, like in the living seas, we see lots of species of, I can't do it, but quarter of the knee. Oh,
It's really
magnificent. So what kind of fish
very
did they have? I mean, they like to me it was like colorful fish, pretty fish, gray fish, dolphin. What kind of fish did they have?
Most of the fish are taken from the areas like around Florida. When you start the orientation, they show you a map.
Taken from areas around Florida, and by that we mean SeaWorld at night.
Hopefully not the Epcot Lagoon. Hopefully not the Epcot Lagoon,
Exactly. It's mostly bass.
Frank, how has Dive Quest changed since the Nemo renovation?
Actually, in the water, there's now some new equipment so that you can't see the fish that are being projected through the fish that are actually in the water.
Say that again?
The other thing that's changed, so when you're on the new Nemo ride, at portions you're actually seeing out into the tank, and they've installed some equipment. It's basically kind of like windows and some other like support structure so that the real fish can't swim through the projected fish.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Huh.
And from the outside, also, you used to be able to swim over the kind of tunnel that connected you to Seabase Alpha, and that now, all of the windows have been blacked out. When you're on the Nemo ride and you're with Crush and he's swimming along the freeway scene, that's actually that tunnel that connects the outside of the pavilion to Seabase Alpha, or what used to be it.
Oh, interesting. Now,
how about that?
Now, how do you get there without the hydrolators? That's what I've always wanted to figure out.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't understand how you could get down there. I mean, it's like, what, a couple 100 feet below ground?
At least for Florida, where you build anything 6 inches below ground level and you get water, I don't see how they do it either.
Yeah, these Disney Imagineers, they're crazy.
Yeah. Do they just bring you up to the top of the tank and push you over, or do you start at the bottom and like through a vent or something, through like an airlock?
Well, right now you actually walk onto the Nemo ride and then it takes you through to the pavilion, which is, I guess, how it used to exist before the renovation.
But you do that in your suit?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, actually, you get suited up in a backstage area, and then you walk through the pavilion, and of course, everybody's looking at you, kind of like you're wearing no clothes.
Happens to Len all the time.
Well,
Then they take you all the way up this kind of spiral staircase, which is in the center of the core of the tank, and that leads you to a platform that you can dive into the water.
So you actually start at the top of the tank or at the bottom?
You start at the top.
What about that cool little airlock thing, Frank, right by Turtle Talk?
Yeah, that's gotta be cool.
How
As
does
many
that work?
times as I've tried to bribe the cast members to let me do it, I haven't gotten anywhere. The tank itself goes vertical, and at the top of the tank there is another airlock that lets the diver out to the rest of the pavilion.
Now, Frank, why don't we hear more about the DiveQuest program? Because it's not really like, I mean, a lot of the tours really aren't mentioned a lot, to the average guest, but really DiveQuest is kind of like, a hush-hush thing. Why is that?
What a cast member has told me is that Disney donates the profits of the Seas Pavilion to the Disney Wildlife Fund, so there's less of an incentive for Disney to promote it over other pavilions and attractions.
Right.
Also, once a year, apparently they take proposals on where the Disney Wildlife Fund should spend its money, and so when you do this DiveQuest program, they show you where the most recent investments have, and apparently December is when they do the new investment. So if you're with a program that would like to be a beneficiary of the program, December apparently is the time to put in your proposals.
Now, how do you... Oh, go ahead, Len.
I was gonna say so Matt'sTastyTreats.com is probably not a. Arthur Treachers. The long.
No, they won't give you a grant for fish sticks,
Fish sticks.
Long John
tilapia,
Silver says tries,
exactly.
now,
What's the funniest about the pavilion for me is that, I've been at the restaurant now 3 times but never eaten there because I've been on the other side of the glass.
but
Really?
Technically you've been there, you just haven't been on the dry side.
Yeah, just on the wrong side. Yeah,
Do you ever stop by and just start...
I don't know
most
if any of...
I was gonna
I don't
ask
know if you guys have,
that's what Frank. That's what you need to do next time. You need to walk through the restaurant when people are just getting their food and say, "Oh, you got the grouper? Yeah, magnificent creature, so gentle, so loving. Boy, I hope he didn't suffer much when he died." Oh, but go ahead and enjoy your meal. I'm sure that sensitive, delicate, almost noble creature, it's better off in your plate than in the wild, frolicking and passing on its genes. I mean, go ahead.
Oh, it's not dead yet. Let me take care of that.
Poor guy. Probably had a family.
Hey, Frank, when's your next dive at?
Oh, as soon as I can get down there. The nice thing about working in the software industry is that Orlando is typically host to a whole bunch of conferences. So I get invited to go down and speak, and I'll normally play hooky from work for a day and go over to the park.
Not
That's
bad.
awesome.
Yeah. Java programming's overrated anyway, Frank. You might as well just go dive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on.
Or hang around on your podcast all day. That would be good too.
Now we know. Everyone knows why Frank is on the podcast, because Frank shamelessly plugs the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you, Frank. You know what we have to have Frank do is do www.com on his dive suit.
Yeah, there you go. If you could whore yourself out to us, that would be really cool.
They never look too closely at what's actually stuck onto the tank, so maybe next time.
There you go.
Oh, you know what we could do? We could get some translucent stickers for you to stick on the outside of the window.
I was thinking he would bring unofficial guides and feed them to the sharks, and then as they're chomping them down, you could see the people on the Nemo ride could see them.
the little pages floating down.
Hey, that's the touring plan I'm on.
Oh, hey, look at that.
It's a Segway Dive Quest touring plan. Yep, I'm looking forward to that one.
A last question for you, Frank. Are there any good web resources for DiveQuest if people want to get more information?
So the WaltDisneyWorld.com site, of course, covers DiveQuest, but I've also found another site at www.epcotdivequest.com. I'm not sure if this is an official Disney site or someone's fan site, but it's really very good.
Oh, cool. We'll put a link in the show notes. That Len is probably typing that up right now.
Woo!
And Frank, I appreciate you coming on and answering our questions and dealing with our Jaws jokes and all the badgering.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really a fan of the podcast, so I'm looking forward to listening to it many times again.
Cool. Well, that's it for us today.
We're gonna have every listener on at least one show. We've doubled by having Frank on. We've essentially doubled our listener volume for the week. Awesome! All right, great. Thank you, Frank.
And a quick note for Sunday, we've got our listener question show, our live question show.
As opposed to our dead questioner show.
Yeah.
Purple Haze.
Not getting too many questions from our dead listeners. So.
Yeah, so now
Exactly.
you can call in on Sunday, and this Sunday at 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on Mouse World Radio. All the details about the live show can be found at our website at wdwtoday.com. If you want to find older episodes, read our shows, and your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at wdwtoday.com. You can also email us at questions@wdwtoday.com. For Lentesta, Mike Scopa, Mike Newell, and Frank Cohen, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.